This is nowhere near as cool as Emily's project, but I had fun with it, and I hope to inspire someone. So I got the opportunity to go into my son's 5th grade class back in the spring for Career Day. And so I got to talk for about 10 minutes about doing digital mapping and data visualization, and had a great time, and I think the kids enjoyed it too. Teachers afterwards said, like, wouldn't it be awesome if we could do some sort of hands-on workshop? And I said, yes, that would be very awesome. Can I please do that? So they scheduled a time for me to come in. And so at Career Day, I mentioned the Beescape project, and I gave a very short, quick demo. So let me tell you about Beescape really quickly. If you want to know more about it, stick around for another like 8 or 9 minutes, and the next talk you'll hear more. But so I stole this slide from Anthony, sorry. Beescape essentially is a web-based mapping system to communicate information about pollinator health based on the landscape. And so basically you can drop a pin on the map and get some scores back that our scientists have modeled how that landscape serves bees. So you'll learn about like floral resources that might be available, nesting habitat, insecticide load, et cetera. This is what Beescape looks like. And so Beescape is based almost entirely on the US Department of Agriculture's cropland data layer. Okay, and so this is important for the next bit. So there's like 130 some classes of land cover, land use, and specifically crop which crops grow on which pixel of the map, right? And then we take that information and run it through the model to spit out some scores. So I decided to, since I do digital interactive web-based mapping, to do a paper-based workshop, because there's no way you could do that with kids in a short time, right? And so I was given like, let's do 30, maybe 45 minutes with 10 kids in this gifted enrichment classroom. So said, okay, that sounds great. And then it got closer, and this was scheduled for the very end of the school year. And they're like, you know what, could you maybe fill a little more time? Like, let's do an hour. So yeah, that sounds great. How about 90 minutes? Yeah, and like by the time I was done, they're like, let's do 2 hours. So, and thank God, because that left all this room for creativity in there with the kids. They brought other kids in. We ended up having over 30 kids in there for most of the time. So I'm going to talk about how I designed this, what it was kind of like delivering and running the workshop with the kids. Let's figure out if we are mappier than 5th graders or not, and what's next. Basically, I took the main concepts of Beescape, and instead of 130 some classifications, right, classes, put it down to like 7, I think. Gave them a blank hex grid, because that's cool and kind of looks like honeycomb. And the idea was that they were going to create their own landscape. They could make it like something they're familiar with, or just totally make up a place, and it did not need to be precise. There was very little parameters there. Then we were going to sort of like encode the data onto the map that they had created, and in the end, do some analysis on it. So I took some Solo cups and Dixie cups and cut the rims off of them just to get some appropriately sized circles, right, a disc that they could use, and like use that as their moving lens to move around the landscape. And the idea there is that you have like a beehive, right, and the bee can fly maybe up to a certain radius, right, to go find forage. And so that's like a core concept in Beescape. And so the kids, just having this little disc that they could move around the map, could simulate, like, oh, if a beehive was here, centered here, this is, you know, the floral resources available to them, or the insecticide load they might need to live under, right? So cartographic chaos. So the gifted enrichment teacher at this school reminds me of Miss Frizzle and runs her classroom that way, and it's like, it's amazing, right? So anyway, went in, kind of presented the activity. This is just like show and tell right now. And like turned the kids loose. So had a bunch of colored pencils, let them just start filling in their map. I was going around trying to just encourage them, like, do it kind of quickly, don't be too precise, just get some color on there, have fun. They did have fun, I guess. I don't know. Sure seemed like it. And then on the right, you can see she's moved on to starting to encode that data. So I skipped over it a little bit, but in that lookup table, right, I gave a score from 0 to 3 for how well each class supports bees with floral resources, or how much insecticide might be sprayed on that class, right? So we put some dots up in the top of each pixel there, right, to represent the floral resources, and then we used red or another color and put some dots down at the bottom if there's insecticide there. And then we got out the discs and they could start moving around. I gave them some very basic prompts here, like, can you find me the best spot on your map that would support bees the best, right? Things like that. Maybe can you find me a spot that really does not support bees or is, would be really difficult for them to live. And like, these kids were amazing. They got the concept very quickly. And so then, something I was not expecting at all is when they had basically finished that, where'd it go? There it is. So one last thing with the discs, I did have 2 different sizes and had them kind of think about like, well, different species maybe can fly different distances from the hive. So that was just like a little simple add-on thing at the end in case someone was finished already, right? But what I wasn't expecting is that once they'd kind of completed the basic thing, some of the kids, their brains went all over the place, and one boy introduced a factory in his landscape that started polluting, okay? And he just got out like a black crayon and just was like, the bees cannot live here. This boy in the middle, he created this entire story that he wanted to tell me about a farmer who had had some hives on his farm and then ended up needing to move them because something happened over here and the woods got cut down. Anyway, it was incredible. And so having that space for creativity, you have no idea what the kids are going to come up with, and that was the most magical moments of this whole workshop. So am I mappier than a 5th grader? Like, obviously not. Like, they're amazing. They got the mapping concepts. They learned the pollinator health concepts. And like, their maps were awesome. So next steps, I was very lucky that I had this large chunk of time with very few parameters, and I could just go in and have a bunch of fun with the kids. But we're attempting to formalize this into an actual lesson plan that teachers could use. That's been done before with some of the beescape content. So I'm working with the Center for Science and the schools at Penn State, as well as the Center for Pollinator Research, where the Beescape project is housed. And so we're attempting to turn this into an actual repeatable lesson plan. That's really difficult, though, because number one, for a teacher to spend classroom time on an activity like this, there need to be specific learning objectives that are tied to national science standards, for example, in the curriculum, right? And so if you were to ever try to do something like this, find some specific learning objectives that you can tie in, right? And pro tip, tie in something from some other subjects too, like social studies, with maps or math, data and graphs, right? Because as I've learned, especially in public schools, teachers have so little time they can spend in any given day on science. But if you're able to tie in multiple subjects, they can then justify spending 45 minutes on this activity or even an hour on the activity. So, and the more time, the better, because you've got to leave room for that chaos and creativity to happen. Once we kind of distill this down, need to create some proper, formalized teacher resources with the references and the student materials, and then test it out for length. Hopefully get this all working by the time my daughter's in 5th grade next year. So that's all I have. Please contact me if you're at all interested in doing something like this yourself, or you want to see that lesson plan once we've got it finished up. Send me an email and I'll make sure to get it to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We are tight on time.